with Joy Hilsen.
Dear God, universe, goddess, support, any our beings that are here to help us, thank you for bringing us together. I'm calling in our guides. I'm calling in the universe as we have been connected through this scheduling for over 6 months. We've been back and forth, and His grace and divinity is shining through. And I welcome His team. I welcome my team. I invite all the beings for the highest good to come collaborate with us for this creation, to bring forth a message with sincerity, clarity, and strength to reach the ears that need to hear and the hearts that wish to soften to this message. May we be conduits for joy, for creation, and for hope. And I'm really excited to collaborate to bring forth this message for the highest good. I honor everyone's ears, I honor everyone's presence, and I invite you to share this message as you feel called. Our interconnection on this grid of light and love is strong, and everyone's attention adds to this light and this place that we're all going together. Nobody's being left behind. That's been coming through to me so clearly. There's not this great awakening that only 5 people are going. It's everybody. Everybody's going to be drug around through this great place that we're heading to with I say it's new earth, but I think it's discovering that the new earth has always been in us. So I honor everyone's contribution, and we've gotten so far that I want to share that from my heart. So without further ado, welcome Craig to the show. Craig Meriwether is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, medical hypnosis specialist, neuro-linguistic programming specialist, and founder of the Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. He's also a best-selling author. He's just had a lifetime. He's not very old. He's been busy, I guess, helping people live their life of dreams. And to me, living your life of dream is a life of love. And so I want to honor his life of love as he's come forward to share his expertise, his insights. He also has a website where he helps people with test anxiety and performance and dealing with negative emotions. So, he just has a lot of depth. So, Craig, thank you for being on Life of Love. I'm so excited to share.
It's you were saying at the beginning, taking us a bit to get together, but right time, right place, and here we are. So I've been looking forward to this, Julie, for a bit now.
Me too. And so when we first connected, I was lit up by, the idea that you can show up to take a test with less anxiety. That's huge. But then when you get down deeper into it, it's like confidence, right? Like you're going to sit down and you'll be confident that you're prepared. And I just wanted to explore that idea of confidence with you and what you found through your expertise, personal experience, or if you have a story that led you to understand it was confidence, or it might be some more basic level of being or consciousness that you can give us insight on, because everyone wants to show up in their best self, right?
Sure. Yeah. And a big part of it, not everybody's story, but a big part of the anxiety around tests or speaking in front of people or asking that person out on a first date, whatever it may be, going for that promotion is just a fear of failure. And there's a huge self-preservation element within the subconscious mind. It's there for your safety. It's there to keep you safe, protected. It's for survival, which doesn't necessarily mean your success and happiness. It wants you alive. And it's using past experiences to formulate a kind of safety protocol. And maybe, just as a kind of a broad example, if in terms of test anxiety or let's say getting in front of people, to do the big speech at the conference or the big meeting at work or something. And maybe back in the 5th grade, this person got up and did their history report in front of class and everybody laughed because it didn't go well. They didn't do a good job at it. They stuttered or they lost track of what they're supposed to say and got lost and all the pictures were upside down or something. And so all the kids laughed because, they're 10-year-olds and that's what 10-year-olds do. They can be kind of mean and then mock them for the next 2 weeks. And so a little instruction gets installed into the subconscious mind that it's dangerous to be in front of people. Yeah, it wasn't a survival thing. It wasn't a physical danger, but it was humiliating. It was embarrassing. Nobody wants to go through that again. And so there's a little kind of file that gets put in the filing cabinet of your subconscious mind that says, okay, getting in front of people is dangerous and you don't want to experience that again. So getting your, doing your master's degree presentation or, your PhD dissertation, or doing the speech at the conference, or getting up in the meeting to do your presentation, all of a sudden that triggers the alarm bells to go off. And, instead of, somebody pulling a fire alarm in a building, the sirens go off, the strobe lights go off, warning everybody there's danger. We also have a warning system, but it's feeling states. It's a feeling state of anxiety, feeling state of fear, the feeling state of overwhelm and worry. It's warning you that there's danger in your external environment. The problem is the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And this is most noticeable when somebody's having a nightmare in the middle of the night. And if you've ever had that experience, Julie, maybe listeners have, maybe you know somebody who has, one where your children had a nightmare and they tell you about this crazy nightmare. I was dreaming that a cheeseburger was chasing me down the street, throwing coconuts at me. It was so scary. The mind can't tell whether that was a real threat or an imagined threat. And even in deep sleep, it'll turn on the stress response. And that's a really hard thing to do. It's not an efficient way to run the body. The brain starts creating that adrenaline and that cortisol, and you've heard the crazy stories of grandmothers lifting cars off of babies. That's adrenaline doing that. Now it's not being dumped into your bloodstream. 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your arms to fight your way out of the situation. 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your legs to escape. It's got to come from somewhere. And so the power of your immune system, the power of your digestive system start to turn down, even in deep sleep. All because of cheeseburgers chasing you down the street. It sort of has a safety protocol of shoot first, ask questions later, because it wants you alive, it wants you safe, it wants you protected. So you can imagine what's happening in your waking world. And so you get tapped to do the presentation at the meeting or the conference or something, and all of a sudden the alarm bells go off. It's like, maybe you don't even remember the fifth grade or the high school thing or whatever happened. But there's a file in there that says, this seems dangerous. Being in front of people is dangerous. We're going to turn that down, turn the volume up on the anxiety, but move away from that. Maybe the procrastination happens, or the self-sabotage happens, or person's driving to the conference and runs their car into a telephone pole. Now they can't make it. All these things can start happening. And so that's the kind of one aspect of it, healing that issue that maybe is related to getting in front of people, or whether it's test anxiety or some other issue. But you were specifically asking about confidence. And that is an aspect of you that you can develop. You are confident in a great many things. And specifically, I can tell you that you're confident that you can tie your shoes. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. And if I was to ask you, are you confident in tying your shoes? Of course you're confident in tying your shoes. Are you confident in zipping up your jacket? Are you confident that you can open the door and close the door behind you? Of course you are. You are confident in great many things. And yeah, these may be little small, silly things. But what is that feeling state of confidence? Knowing you can go to wherever you park your shoes, go to the shoe room, sit in a chair to put on your shoes, knowing that you can tie them, you can zip up the side. There's confidence there. And a lot of this practice is now linking that confidence to something you want to be confident about. So whether it's taking the test or doing the presentation, or, if you're an actor or musician, the audition, or the first date or the job interview, whatever it is, there's lots of tests out there.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's tests all over the
Yeah.
place. There's tests like just dealing with interpersonal skills,
Yeah.
you can feel those subconscious red flags, the blood, certain situations make your blood boil. There's a saying, my blood is boiling. You're like, that's a test, right?
Yeah. They're all over the place. And not necessarily just the math test in school, and whether it's, well, we just mentioned a bunch of them, and people may feel a lack of confidence. Well, you can have all the things that you want. You can have the joy, you can have the happiness, you can have the confidence. It may just take some practice. And you can wire that feeling state, that confidence, that love, that joy, happiness literally into your brain so you can feel like that. But there's a practice to it. What you practice, you get better at. And so we know this from, playing the guitar or playing the violin or going to dance class or martial arts. That's a great one. You go from a white belt to a black belt, but it takes practice. They just don't hand you a black belt on your first day of martial arts class. Learning to walk as a kid, learning to ride a bicycle. You can do these things, but it takes some practice. So what are you practicing? Are you practicing anxiety? Are you practicing fear? Are you practicing feeling worried and overwhelmed? You're literally wiring that into your brain. You're wiring that into your nervous system. That sounds scary, because how do you stop that? Well, you got to practice something else. There may be some issues that need healing around that worry, around that overwhelm, around that anxiety. But just because you get rid of the anxiety, let's say the overwhelming chronic anxiety, I think we all need a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. That's what keeps you from walking down that dark alley at midnight. You know, we want to remember that there are dangerous situations walking out in nature. You're out in the desert and a rattlesnake's in the trail. Okay, that's not your friend. You want to move away from that. It's a dangerous situation. The fight in the street or the restaurant or something. Move away from that. So yeah, a certain amount of fear and anxiety helps. A certain amount of stress helps you, finish the report by the deadline. So it can be good. But when it peaks and you head down the other side, you're getting to chronic anxiety, panic, overwhelm, and your systems start to shut down. Well, okay, there's ways of dealing with anxiety if there's some long-term chronic anxiety or fears within your mindset. But just because you deal with that and you deal with that hurt and pain doesn't mean all of a sudden you're filled with joy and love and happiness and confidence. Maybe you are, but if you haven't practiced for it, why would it all of a sudden be there? If you
Right.
grew up
I
in a
love
situation where maybe there wasn't much joy or love in your
that's
house,
yeah, that's such
how are you
clarity
going to
because
get that?
I think that in general, most people think they're entitled to be
Mhm.
happy. Like
Yeah.
happiness means lack of whatever stress. Like if you get rid of all these things that are wrong, what's left?
Right.
Happiness. But you make a really good point. That's a skill that you develop, that it just doesn't arrive. It's not, you're not entitled to that feeling. You have to intend for it and to
Yeah.
practice it. So I
Yeah.
love this clarity because I think just getting that idea out could change so many people's perspective and even be more raw about it. Like, I'm trying to be happy right now. I'm trying to find it. Like, just be honest with yourself that you're looking for it and it's okay not to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the
And
joy the
we're,
joy's not there, but you're not entitled to it. It takes a little bit of effort.
yeah. And we're wired, we're human beings. We're wired to feel the full spectrum of emotion. I don't think necessarily anger or sorrow or grief or sadness is bad. It's just when you get cycled into that. And so it's
Yeah, it
there
becomes a
all
loop,
the
like,
time
and
and it gets
people get off
chronic.
balance with
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
loop.
There's no balance. I mean, the Dalai Lama still meditates every day. The guy's 90 years old. And, read his books. He talks about the anger and the sorrow and the despair of, what's going on in Tibet, let alone the rest of the world. But, Chinese government's still bulldozing down his monasteries to build roads and railroad tracks and whatever, arresting his monks, torturing his monks. And that causes a great deal of despair and sorrow and grief and anger. He's a human being. He's going to feel that. That's a natural response to an extraordinarily tragic situation. But he doesn't want that to be who he is, his essence. So every day he practices loving kindness and compassion. That's his work. That's what he does. And at 90 years old, he's still doing it. And if anybody was to have it down by now, you think it'd be that guy. He doesn't have a lot of the challenges in life that a lot of us do. He doesn't have any children. He doesn't have a spouse. He doesn't have a business that's in financial trouble and all the stuff that goes around taxes and aging, spouses and things like this, children falling off their bike and breaking their arm. He doesn't have to deal with that. He has a staff of people, in fact, that meets his every need and want. And yet there he is still every day practicing. So there's a certain relentlessness to this work, a relentlessness of course, to our physical health. And this is a great example. It's like we know at this point that you have to be doing something pretty much every day, if at least 3 to 4 times a week, whether you're going to the gym or a spin class or dance class or martial arts or whatever you're doing. And every day you got to be taking a walk, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, eating right, drinking right. It's relentless. You just don't get to go to a personal trainer once, work out at the gym twice, and then you're in shape for the next 50 years, eating whatever you want. You have to be constantly vigilant about your health as you move through life. Certainly it is maybe a little bit easier when we're 17, 18, 19. Certainly not when we're in our 50s and 60s and older. And so there's a relentlessness to your physical health. We know that. But what about your emotional health and your mental health? your spiritual health, your relationship health. There's relentlessness to this work. That's why the Dalai Lama, of all people, is still practicing. And so, what are you doing in your life to move forward? And again, that's, if I was to write down everything I wanted to do during my day in terms of prayer and meditation and reading and qigong and all the different things, I'd have a 5-hour practice I would need to do. And sometimes I can actually do that, occasionally here and there. But sometimes I got 10 minutes, with everything going on. So what
You
can you
wrap
do
up
in
your
that 10
Tai Chi,
minutes?
your meditation.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah, I
could
don't have
do it
an
with
hour and a
your
half to do the full Tai Chi thing. But I may have 10 minutes to do some Qigong, or, yeah, I may not have time to do my full hour of connecting and all that kind of stuff, but I may have 10 minutes to do some prayer, some meditation or something like that. And
yeah,
so I
well,
now
that's
may be sitting in my car at the parking lot before I walk into a work or a meeting or something. And so you just got to find those times, and it's the practice of it. And you can have, again, like we were talking about before, it's through the practice that you can find that confidence. You can find that joy and that happiness. And even if you don't feel confidence, I don't feel joyful, I don't feel happy, I don't feel confident, I don't feel loving. It's been a rough time. And yeah, I understand that. But to wire your brain for it, you have to practice. And sometimes maybe just pretending is enough. Pretending you have the confidence, visualizing yourself in the future, let's say it's speaking in front of public, getting the standing ovation from doing such a great job with your speech. There was a research study that was done in this is right when like a lot of the MRI machines coming out, SPECT scans and things where scientists could watch the brain in real time. Before, all we knew about the brain was what they gained from sociological experiments and autopsies. So here they could watch the brain in real time, and this group of researchers wanted to watch the brain as it learned something new. And so they picked piano, and they brought a bunch of volunteers in to learn how to play piano. They taught them the simple little exercises and scales and little songs you learn as a beginner, taught them how to do this, and they came into the lab for 7 days straight and practiced for 2 hours. They had the control group, because when you're doing this kind of research, you need that control group that doesn't do anything, because compare and contrast. Here's a brain that doesn't do anything, doesn't learn anything new. Here's a brain that's learning how to play piano. At the end of the week, what are the differences? Compare and contrast. But they also had a third group. This is where it gets really interesting, is they had a third group only pretend to play the piano, to learn the piano. So they brought this group in. They showed them the simple little scales and exercises and little songs that you learn as a beginner. But instead of sitting at the piano, they sat in a recliner. They closed their eyes and they pretended to play the piano, practice the piano. So at the end of the week, they watching everybody's brain. At the end of the week, the control group, nothing changed in their brain. Of course, they didn't learn anything. They didn't do anything new. Nothing changed in their brain. No big mystery there. The group that actually played the piano, we put their hands on the piano, worked the keys with their fingers, heard the music, read the sheet music with their eyeballs. They developed a new neural network in the part of the brain for music. Neurons, brain cells connecting together, forming a new neural network that was visible in the part of the brain for music. And of course they were. They doing something new. They're learning something. Of course, they developed a new neural network. No big mystery there. But what's extraordinary is a group who only pretended to play the piano also developed the same neural network in the same part of the brain. Brains look like they're playing the piano, even though they never touched it, they never heard music, they never read the sheet music. By pretending it, that whole fake it till you make it thing is real. And so, yeah, maybe you don't have the confidence right now. You don't have the joy. You don't have the happiness. Within about a week, you can start rewiring your brain just by pretending you do. And according to the University College of London, it takes something like 66 days to create a habit. So this doesn't take years and years and years. Even if the issues, the hurt and pain was there for years, even if it happened, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, it's not going to take years and years and years to fix. We're talking weeks, if not months. And that's the
that's inspiring.
extraordinariness
Yeah.
of the human brain. You can literally start rewiring your brain in about a week. And within about 2 months, you'll have a new habit, automatic feeling state, mindset, tying your shoes without having to think about it, whatever your martial arts, that punch, that kick, the dance move, whatever it is. Within about 2 months, you'll have a new habit where you can just happen automatically within the unconscious part of mind. And that's pretty extraordinary as a human being. So again, it goes back to, what are you practicing then? and that's where the watchfulness has to happen. What are you telling yourself? What are other people telling you? What are you watching? What are you getting involved with? And yeah, I know the world's on fire, but there's also got to be time to make sure you're moving and growing in the way you want to. And you're allowed to do that. The world's on fire, and the Dalai Lama still finds time every day to practice loving kindness and compassion meditation. You know, and so if we each, whatever it is, even if you have 5 minutes, there's something you can do. You don't have 2 hours to pretend you're playing piano. You don't have 4 hours like the Dalai Lama to meditate. What if you have 5 minutes? What if you have 10 minutes? What could you do? And that's
Well,
where, the lists
that's
come
a good
out and the
segue.
practices and all that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, that's a great segue because I wanted to ask you about that morning, getting in the zone first thing in the morning that you had mentioned some point when we were talking about there's getting into the state.
Yeah.
And so maybe that could be an action step, maybe getting into the state when you're brushing your teeth because you're sitting there, I have one of those automatic toothbrushes that you get 30 seconds in each zone. And I'm always like, oh, I'm so bored. I'll
Yeah.
walk around and then I'll forget what zone I was on. I'll be like, I don't know if I got zone 4. I got to go
Yeah.
back. It'll be done. I'm like, wait, I only did 3 zones. I got to start it.
Start again.
Maybe that'd be a good time for me to,
Yeah.
focus on. So what is your morning routine to get in the state or the zone of confidence or loving kindness or whatever, however you want to
Right.
start your
Yeah.
day?
And depending on the morning and how much time I have, but there's a couple exercises I like to do, and I could show you real quick. I'll do the quick couple of minute versions of these. But even if you just have 5-6 minutes, there's a couple of really great exercises to do. Some of your listeners may already heard of these before, but they're a great way to center yourself and ground yourself, as well as change your brain chemistry, reset your nervous system, and reset your reticular activating system. And reticular activating system is part of the brain. It's one that's always looking for danger. That's why a new mom will wake up when hearing the baby cough in the other room or sneeze or cry out in the middle of the night. You're always hearing, you smell smoke, you wake up. You hear the back door open at 4 a.m., you wake up. Too hot, too cold, got to go bathroom, you wake up. That's your reticular activating system. You're driving towards the driving towards the green light, and now your peripheral vision, you see the other car going way too fast towards the red, so you slam on your brakes automatically. That's your reticular activating system. But it's also there to help you create solutions and find answers. And that's that thing when you're thinking about buying a new car and you're thinking about buying a Toyota Prius. It's like now you see Toyota Priuses everywhere.
That's
They're there
true.
yesterday, the day before, but you just weren't focused on them because now you're looking at the solution to the new car, gets good gas mileage, maybe I'll get a Toyota Prius. And then you think, well, yeah, but family likes to be outdoors. We like to go hiking and being out in nature. Maybe we should get a 4-wheel drive car. Maybe we should get a Jeep. Well, now you refocus your reticular activating system. Now you see Jeeps everywhere. Well, Jeeps were always parked next to the Priuses and driving down the street. You just weren't focused on them. Just as you're not seeing the Kias or the BMWs or the Dodge Caravans. And so this is that thing, if you've ever had this experience of your day going from bad to worse, you focus your reticular activating system to find you more things to be upset about, to be angry about, to be
Match your state.
afraid of even. And it's this process of biology where we have the 5 senses. See, hear, taste, touch, smell. We're being inundated with 11 million bits of information per second. So the temperature of the room, which you probably don't notice unless it's too hot or too cold. Maybe the little sounds around you, like the refrigerator going on or the ceiling fans on, maybe. But you don't notice it unless there's like maybe a squeak or something and the ceiling fan is like, what's that? There's something off about that. It's too bright or too dark. You don't notice unless there's something a little bit off about it because we can't handle all that information. So we have to filter out a lot of stuff. We're only cognizant of 50 bits, 50 bits of that 11 million. And so when you're focusing on your day going from bad to worse, you're filtering out all the good stuff. And so what's great about doing these exercises in the morning, whatever it may be for you, I'll show you a couple that I like to do. But whatever your techniques or exercises are in the morning, by doing them or during your day, but by doing it in the morning, you focus your reticular activating system to find you. If your exercise is about peace or love or loving kindness or compassion, and you focus on that in the morning, you refocus your tick activating system to find more things to bring you more love, kindness, compassion, things like that. And so this first exercise I want to show everybody real quick, and it's simply called 3-2-1 reset. This one's I like to do in the morning because it gets me into that zone I want to be in. And this may be not great for if you're like out about to run a marathon or get into competition for sports, or you got to do that business meeting or the promotion or whatever. But in terms of me and what I want my day to go, this is a great one for me. And the 3 stands for 3 slow breaths, because that will help reset your nervous system. The vagus nerve comes down out of the back of the head. It's a big part of that parasympathetic nervous system. So we have the sympathetic nervous system, the stress response, parasympathetic relaxation response, when all the energy goes back to the right systems that need it the most at that point in time. So we have the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve is a big part of that. Attaches to the eyes, to the ears, to the muscles of your jaw, goes past your vocal cords, attaches to your heart, to your lungs, and to your gut. And by breathing deeply into your gut, you flatten out that diaphragm. It feels like where your rib cage is. Your lungs are huge. And so, your heart is something like the size of your fist. Your stomach's not that much bigger. Kidneys are pretty small. The lungs are huge because we need that much oxygen coming in. So breathing in deeply, because when you're stressed, you shallow breathe. This brain takes 20% of the oxygen we breathe in. So the more you breathe in, the more oxygen you can send to your brain for rational, calm thinking. Resets the nervous system, moving you over into the parasympathetic, because that vagus nerve is attached to the lungs. As you exhale, you can even exhale with a sigh, because as you vibrate the vocal cords, you're vibrating the vagus nerve that goes right by it, therefore stimulating the vagus nerve, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. So that's why humming and singing feels so good, because you're vibrating the vagus nerve, you're stimulating the vagus nerve, therefore activating the parasympathetic. So even exhaling with a sigh if it's appropriate. And the 3-2-1 reset, we're going to create bilateral stimulation. And when somebody's feeling anxious, is feeling afraid, feeling really angry, you're lighting up a part of the right side of the brain. Well, it needs oxygen, blood supply, fuel, nutrients to energize all these brain cells sending their little electrical signals to each other. So it vacuums it away, pulls it away from these other parts of the brain. These other parts of the brain go quiet. So one way of undoing that is by bilateral stimulation, which is just movement exercises. Right side of the brain controls left side of the body. Left side of the brain controls right side of the body. So just here's my little squeezy ball. Just by moving your arms, you can start pulling that energy away to light up these other parts of the brain. And since I'm moving on both sides of my body, I'm lighting up each side of my hemisphere in different ways. You can do it different ways. If you ever seen somebody drumming on their knees in a meeting or back in school, they're not hyper, they're nervous. And they're self-soothing by drumming on their knees, walking, left foot, right foot, left foot. That's bilateral stimulation. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our shoulders. And this is bilateral stimulation because you're grabbing each shoulder, but you also obviously see that this is a hug. This is nurturing, healing, loving touch, even when you're giving it to yourself. And if you want to kind of squeeze your shoulders or give yourself a bear hug or do the havening technique, which is like rubbing your hands up and down, that's very, very calming, very reassuring, very loving. This is nurturing, healing touch. This is sending a signal from the nerves in your arms. Remember, you touch that hot pot, signal goes up your nerve to your brain. Hey, you're touching a hot pot, let it go, it goes back down, you let it go. The nerves are now sending a signal up to your brain, creating the hormone GABA, which is dissipating and evaporating all the adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones, so it can now fill your brain with oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, the feel-good chemistry.
You don't need an edible. You just need a
Yeah,
hug.
yeah. You actually don't. And if this is safe for you to do so, of course, if you're driving, if you're watching the kids around
Don't
the
do it
school,
if you're
don't do
driving.
this type of.
Unless you have a Tesla.
If
As
you're
long
in a
as your
safe
Tesla's
place,
not
yeah.
on fire.
If you're in a safe place and you can do so, it's safe for you to do so. Closing your eyes, think of somebody you want to give a hug to. Remember, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, just like those piano players. And because you're sending the signal of love, compassion, even hugging yourself, and now you're imagining hugging somebody that you care for, you're flooding your brain with that oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, and creating molecules called neuropeptides that send the message of emotion to your body. When you're feeling upset, these are literal molecules of anxiety, anger, overwhelm, worry. In this instant, we're creating molecules of love, joy, and happiness, top of the hormones of oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. Thinking of that person can be in your life today. It could be a pet. You have a dog, a cat. If you align yourself with a spirit animal, a power animal, the wolf, the bear, the dolphin, it doesn't matter. Your mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Maybe somebody who's no longer with us, your grandparents, grandmother, your grandfather, somebody you've never met before, Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc, Gandhi. The mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined as you feel their physiology, this hug, and imagine hugging somebody you care about. Literally resetting your nervous system and literally hacking your brain and changing the chemistry of your brain. 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I mean, you can do it for half an hour if you'd like, but if you only have 5, 6 minutes, you sit in your car and do this before you walk into that meeting or walk into the classroom or whatever. You've had a rough day. Life is life. Sometimes there's challenges. You've had a rough day. Do this exercise before you walk back into your house and be with family and friends and things. Reset yourself, put yourself in state. And if you want that state of joy, of happiness, this is a great exercise to do that with. And even if just 5, 6 minutes, you will literally reset your nervous system and hack your brain to change your brain chemistry. And the more you practice something, the better you get at it. And it'll be faster and easier to get into that state because you're literally wiring your brain for that state of happiness and joy and compassion and love and whatever else you want.
Yeah, and it immediately deletes the fight or flight because
Yeah,
those 3
immediately.
deep breaths are like you're safe. Like if you're breathing through your nose and you're breathing calm and deep breaths, you're safe. It's the opposite of panting or gulping for air or holding your breath. Like, and you said when we're stressed, we shallow breathe. I adore breath work. It's just transformative.
Well, and what's also fun, I know we're getting close to the end here, but what's fascinating about the biology around that breath is that, it's something like 30, 35 days or so without food and the body dies. Something like 3 to 4 days without water, 5 days without water, we die. But it's like 5, 6 minutes without oxygen, we're unconscious. 8, 9 minutes, we have permanent brain damage. 10 minutes and we're dead. So you literally have minutes. You're on a fast for medical reasons, spiritual reasons. Great. That's fantastic. Amazing. You don't have a glass of water today? Not great, but you're going to be okay. You don't breathe? You have minutes. And the biology, your mind, your brain knows this. So if you're not breathing well, you can really start to panic. You are not getting the life force, essence, biology of air going through your system, the oxygen you need to maintain life. And the feeling state of panic is anxiety. And so one of the great things to do is to breathe. Again, the lungs are huge. They're huge for a reason. We need that much air. So, and when we're stressed, we tighten the stomach muscles, waiting for that 1-2 punch to the gut. The rib cage is here for the heart and the lungs, but the only thing protecting the vital organs of the abdomen are the muscles. So you tighten the muscles. So you even need time to relax those muscles, practice relaxing those muscles so you can get that big belly breath. We all want to
Yeah,
pants
that
to
belly
fit better,
breath.
look good at the high school reunion and the wedding and everything. So we suck it in. But if you relax it and breathe deeply into your abdomen, flattening out that diaphragm, getting the air in the bottom of our lungs, that's exactly what we need to be doing.
Yeah,
And
give
it
yourself
will
the
turn
Buddha
off the
belly.
stress response.
Like when you really fill it up, you get the Buddha belly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
your
And
first
yeah,
trimester.
I don't see any magazines where people are doing that. Everybody's looking thin and in shape. And so it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah, and those
feel,
Spanx. I mean, you probably
yeah,
haven't worn Spanx, but with women, when we put on those Spanx, it's like,
yeah. Yeah, it sucks it in. And it's like, yeah, I get it. I want to look good too at the wedding. I want to look good at my high school reunion, but I want my jeans to fit better.
yeah, just realizing subconsciously the message you're sending your body is there's not enough air. And then
Yeah.
you can go from
If you not have
there.
enough air, what's the mind going to do? It's going to start to panic. And again, the feeling state of panic is anxiety.
And okay,
Literally,
so
those molecules of anxiety are going to dump into your system.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I just public service announcement. I'm sorry, I have to interject. People are going crazy about the candles and melting the wax for the smells, and it makes the air quality horrible. Like they're not putting real vanilla in that wax candle melt thing. Just be aware that's affecting your air quality, and it's the number one most important thing, like you need clean water and clean air to just show up as your best. And when you're inhaling these artificial petroleum-based scents, your body has to filter out the toxins. It just does. These microplastics are all over on our bodies, around us. So control what you can. So please, I mean, you might have spent a lot of money. They might be pretty, but maybe just turn on the light, but don't put the wax thing on it.
I love candles. I like to use it when I can, when I have longer periods of time to do my more ritual kind of work.
Mhm.
But yeah, I try to find those ones that, and they're harder to find than they used to
They're
be.
hard to find.
Yeah.
I think the
Non-perfumed
soy
candles.
ones, they're coconut based or soy based. Like you have to look and see if they're non-toxic.
Yeah.
It's like, really? We just want to chill out.
Yeah, I just want to light a candle. How it shouldn't be that hard.
So pretty. Oh, and the poor bees, we can't use all their beeswax for candles. They need some for their
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, and I don't
consciousness.
have $40 for a tiny little candle every 2 weeks. Try that.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate all your insight, and I can share your website with the audience on the in the show notes. But you want to call it out in case someone
Sure.
just
Yeah.
wants to.
Well, I don't know if this ever got through, but I think at the beginning we were talking about I'm a hypnotherapist, and I could go on for 3 hours about that. Just it's a fascinating modality. But I'm a hypnotherapist, and if you want more information about that, I'm happy to talk with you. Email, phone, text. Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, but I work with people around the country, around the world through Zoom. As it's a wonderful way of doing it. In fact, what research says that Zoom sessions might actually work better than in person because people feel safe and relaxed in their homes, and so they relax a little bit deeper, and not just hypnotherapy, but talk therapy, relationship counseling, coaching, doctor's appointments. Research over the last 5 years shows Zoom sessions work as well as in person, and maybe even better in person is what some research. So happy to talk with you about it if you're interested at all. Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy links are probably somewhere around here, but live in Flagstaff. So if you just Google Flagstaff hypnosis, I'll show up somewhere.
Nice. That's so great. I just adore your work. Thanks for
Thank
sharing
you.
your expertise and insight. This has been a blast.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.